Sometimes a single 24-hour period can be like a stress test for the entire world. It peels back the curtain and shows you all the hidden cracks in the systems we count on every single day for our safety, our work, our lives. So let's dive into one of those days. It all kicked off with this chilling warning, a near mess that could have ended in an absolute unthinkable tragedy.
And at the exact same time, the invisible architecture of our modern world, that digital scaffolding holding up everything from our banks to our airlines, it just started to buckle.
Meanwhile, inside what's supposed to be one of the most secure buildings on Earth, a crime was unfolding that felt like it was straight out of a movie. And then, high above all of it, the very technology designed to keep us safe began to fail. We're talking 3 totally different stories all happening in one incredibly chaotic day. All right, so let's start on the ground. We're talking about the physical world, in places we think of as fortresses. And funnily enough, it all starts at a place that's all about movement, the busiest airport on the planet. So police say this guy, 49-year-old Billy Cagle, a convicted felon, shows up at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, and he's got an AR-15 and enough ammo to cause a total massacre. You can actually see him on the surveillance tapes, right there near the packed TSA area. Now, police were already scrambling to find him, and there's this weird detail from his capture. He was so big, they literally needed 2 sets of handcuffs. But that's not the real question, is it? The real question is, how on earth did they even know he was there? Well, get this. The tip-off wasn't from some high-tech surveillance system. Nope. It came from his own family. They saw what he was posting on social media and they made the call. Just one simple human decision that, police say, absolutely prevented a tragedy. So, while that one human choice saved the day in Atlanta, a huge security failure somewhere else allowed for a totally different kind of breach. Another supposedly impenetrable fortress was cracked wide open, and with unbelievable speed. Just look at this timeline. It shows you exactly how insane this was. 9:34 a.m., they're in. They smash, they grab 9 priceless items. And by 9:38, poof, they're gone. Vanished into Paris traffic on motorbikes. That's it. 4 minutes. I mean, that's an almost unbelievable breakdown in security. It left the authorities completely floored. Okay, so the disruptions on this day weren't just things you could see and touch. A much bigger, totally invisible crisis was unfolding online, and it was hitting millions of people. Think about this number. Over 11 million reports of outages. That's the crazy scale we're dealing with here. All your favorite apps, banking websites, airlines, even software for schools, they all just went dark. And the reason for all this chaos? It all traced back to a single company. When you hear Amazon, you're probably thinking about the shopping site, right? Getting packages delivered. But the real beast is AWS, Amazon Web Services. It is the hidden engine of the internet. It holds all this critical data for the world's biggest companies. And this just shows you how much we depend on it. Because when AWS went down, a giant piece of our digital world just stopped working. But the digital world wasn't just breaking down from a technical standpoint. There was a much darker threat hiding in the shadows, one that wasn't about bad code, but about breaking someone's trust in the most personal and predatory way imaginable. So Florida's Attorney General had some really harsh words for the kids' game Roblox, calling it a breeding ground for predators. And this right here, this is their playbook. It starts off looking innocent enough, right? Offering some in-game money. But it escalates, and fast, to blackmail, and even in some cases, finding out where a kid actually lives. It's a terrifying reminder of what can be hiding inside these online worlds our kids love. Okay, so we've got breaches in the physical world and the digital world. But this day also saw entire complex systems, the kind we literally trust with our lives, pushed right to the very edge. Just think about aviation for a second. On this one day, in Hong Kong, you have a fatal cargo plane crash. Over in China, a lithium-ion battery just bursts into flames, forcing an emergency landing. And then, over the US, a cockpit windshield just shatters at 36,000 feet. Any one of these is a huge deal, but all of them happening on the same day, it really paints a scary picture of a global system that's stretched way too thin. And it wasn't just our machines and our infrastructure that were under pressure. Our systems of law and order were facing their own trial by fire.
So, deadly force. The definition is pretty clear. It's supposed to be the absolute last resort for law enforcement, only when there's an immediate threat of death. But a trial that kicked off on this day put that whole idea under a national microscope. A former deputy, Sean Grayson, was on trial for murder. He was accused of shooting and killing Sonia Massey after she was the one who called 911 for help. The body cam footage from that incident would spark a huge debate across the country about where you draw the line between a justified action and a fatal, tragic mistake.
So you step back and you look at all this. A would-be shooter at an airport, a global tech meltdown, a heist that looks like a movie, planes falling apart in the sky, and this huge courtroom drama. I mean, what on earth connects all of this?
Well, it turns out the single most important factor in every one of these crises, it wasn't the technology, it wasn't the security guards, it wasn't the system itself, it was something way more basic. And this right here lays it all out, crystal clear. On this exact same day of chaos, 3 different human choices led to 3 completely different results. You've got the Cagle family, who make a phone call and stop a mass shooting. Then in Florida, you have parents who leave their baby on a beach and end up facing felony charges. And on a cruise ship, a mother encourages her kid to take a risky photo on a railing, and the child falls. See? The exact same variable, a human decision, but with outcomes that could not be more different. And that's really the heart of it all. At the Atlanta airport, a human choice saved lives. At the Louvre, a human choice took advantage of a weakness. In those terrible cases of child endangerment, a human choice created the tragedy from scratch. And honestly, nothing shows you how terrifyingly fragile that human element can be more than this quote. This was the excuse from the parents who left their 6-month-old baby alone on a beach. We kind of lost track of time. It's just so casual, an almost unbelievable reason for such a catastrophic failure in judgment. Which brings us to this one final question. We build all these complex, fragile systems to keep us safe. But as this one day proved, they can all break down. So when the alarms fail and the firewalls go down, what are we left with? Is our greatest weakness, or maybe our only real hope, simply the person standing right next to us?